Good morning guys, I hope you're all keeping well and managing to get outdoors occasionally. Today I thought I'd give you a rundown on my favourite cooking stoves for in the field. This is my favourite, but I'll get to that finally. Starting at this end, I want to begin by mentioning the twig stove. It's an old favourite. We'll get a bit closer in. I'll bring it forward. The reason I like this one is because it's quite compact. It all goes inside the MSR cook pot. Now, this is not very stealth by any means. It's very shiny and chrome. One could spray it dark green and rough it up a bit or blacken it, but I just can't bear to destroy stainless steel, so that's really not a covert stove. But it's great for fun, for little short ventures into the woodland. So it breaks into three pieces, and it all falls together inside here. And this is a Lixada model, which is, I suppose, a cheaper version, but it's a beautiful piece of kit, very kindly gifted to me by my stepson, Douglas. Thank you, Douglas. I've had it for about a year, or just over a year. I did have the earlier model, which was very similar to this one, and I like this one in particular because it has a higher vent and gives a much richer flame. You can do your steak on it, or you can just simply cook a pot. And inside it has a collection tray for the ashes, which can be reversed, and you can put a mess burner underneath instead. Although I have heard people say that it does get rather hot. A great piece of kit, I do like it. But if you reverse the ashtray the other way around, it comes higher up. But I find that the mess got too hot actually. So probably just put the mess tray, the burner in the bottom. But it's very versatile. It's fairly light on its own actually, but it's put inside the pot. The pot weighs quite a bit. The whole thing has it's still lighter than the BCB, so that's a very nice arrangement, piece of kit. The second most valuable piece of toy hardware, which I've not tried yet, is this one. And it's the Lixada wood stove. Now, I don't know how much they are, because this was a gift this Christmas past, again by my stepson Douglas. Thank you. You're always very thoughtful and know what's going on in my head. But this can be used obviously for twigs. Now, on a cold or a dark night in a forest, a great way of keeping yourself busy is just to keep putting twigs in and keep a fire going. I will be spraying this one dark green before I use it. It will get damaged and charred anyway with the fuel, but it's also quite versatile because in the top here there's room for the Lixada mess burner. Fits in just nicely like so. There we are, that's it as a wood stove. Rock steady because you can put heavy pots on it then and really go to town. So that's a wonderful Lixada folding stove. Agreeably, I agree, it is quite a heavy piece of kit, but it folds away to a nice flat envelope and slips in the side of your pack. But overall, it's reasonably heavy, but that's okay. You could use this platform and put your pot on there. I'll just see how that feels. I have used them before in the field. I had one, and I did find it a little bit unsteady on the turf like that. So you need to clear a good level platform and sink it in nicely, slightly, so that it doesn't wiggle around. But it doesn't take the BCB, you see. So the only way around that problem would be to reverse it, so that it takes the BCB quite happily. And that's probably how I would use it. The flames would just be licking all around the sides here, so that would work really well. The other advantage of it, apart from it being very light and very compact, is that you could pile twigs in and have a little flame as well. So this is a really clever design. Basic, simple, lightweight, practical. Very good piece of kit. My next sub-favourite is the old cadet gear. I use this really quite a lot now. It can be used either with the meths, a piece of rope, get the camera here, there we are, a tin which can be dropped on top to extinguish, Very lightweight, so you can use the meth system, and it's simple and it works. And I find that if you put your smaller pot on first, like so, you can use the larger pot as a shield, a cover, and you've probably seen me in the field using an old piece of tin from a biscuit tin, sprayed green, and just bend it round, and that's where the wind is coming from, and that gives you some protection against the elements, like so. So it works really, really well for me. I do like that system. So that's, I suppose, my second favourite for lightweight, which I would take on a day pack, a patrol pack with me for a brew up during my walks. So that's second favourite. I have to say that I've gone back to the hexi blocks with the hexi stove because they can be packed nicely in the base and there's no mess once they're finished, and they burn really hot and quick, so I really like that. You can half your hexi block and have a slower burn, a smaller burn, or you could quarter it, cut it into 4 pieces and just use a small simmer if you want to have a longer cook. So the hexi stove to me is probably the lightest and most efficient, clean and simple way of cooking on the field. I did steer away from hexi blocks a year ago and went to the gel, but I found the gel dirty, messy and runny, and it would just dissolve. Okay, there is the problem of the fumes coming off the hexi, but just, you know, for the short time you're cooking in the open air, just avoid the fumes and try not to breathe them in. Job done. Now my old favourite, as you well know, which you see me using all the time, of course, is the BCB. Heavy but robust, and it's why do I like it? Because it packs up easily. The rocker buckle fits in the base perfectly, like so, and the base goes like that, and then your cup on the top, like so, and that will go very well. But it's fairly compact and fits perfectly in the side of the Bergen pouch, or the BCB pouch if you have one. I use this most of the time, and for lightweight convenience I like to use the old hexi system. So I think that's me covered the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stoves that I rather like. My favourite, it's really difficult, but actually it's swinging towards the old-fashioned hexi stove, but I always come back to my BCB. Either way, I think they're both equally effective. A closer look at the hexi stove. It's so compact because you can fit in it your fuel. It folds beautifully flat and it has enough to hold enough fuel to keep you going for 48 hours. This one is about 3 years old. It's been used quite a lot, and I thought by now it would have fallen apart, but it hasn't. It's still going strong. Isn't that amazing? It will eventually wear out, but again, they are affordable, so I would get them from any Armis surplus while you can. Great piece of kit, and it goes compact inside your mess tin, like so, and you can put your coffee along here, and you can pop your cup on top, and your matches, and this slips over the top like so, and suddenly you've got a compact fire lighting system, cooking system, and cooking pots all in one little box. Isn't that amazing? I mean, that is so well designed, and it has stood the test of time. I mean, the cadets and the forces have been using them for years. So I like that. I mean, this is my lightweight summer patrol pack choice that I've been taking with me these days, because it's all about reducing the weight, isn't it? But my number one favourite, I suppose, is still the BCB, and I can't make up my mind really why. I think it might be because the cup is so generous, tough, you know, it can scrub, and you know, it's stainless steel, and it really does clean up nicely for the next operation. And it's versatile because this is Mark 1, by the way. There are 2 models. There's the Mark 2, which is usually black painted with a higher platform with holes drilled, so you could actually get a better burn off it and also burn twigs more efficiently. But I find this works for me. What I do, as you've seen in films in the past, is I lay twigs across the top of my mess when it's burning, and they get going after a short time, and they extend the cook time, which means that you've got kind of a hybrid system of cooking with twigs and fuel. And at the end of the day, you could always resort to twigs only if you've nothing else left. Yeah, so I like my BCB, and I think the main reason why I like it is because I know it's been very well used in the forces throughout all the generations of military operations. You'll always see one of them kicking about. So I like a good mug full of food. You can get a really big meal in here, and of course it's designed to take in rations that you can heat up in the foil sleeves. That's why it's deep, and then you use the leftover water for your brew. So it has got a design, superiority about it. But it is heavy with the water. But without the water, it's just about as light as any other stove. But overall, I like it because it's tough and almost indestructible. You could drive a tank over it and it might still be usable. So that's the 4 main stoves that I like to use. But finally, I've got a friend, a Lance Corporal in the forces, who has just come back from Afghanistan 2 years ago, and he came in to me one day and I said to him, "What do you use for fuel stove when you're on operations?" He said, "Well, I always carry this." And he pulled out of his pocket a cigarette lighter with a black rubber band round it, and I said, "What's that?" "That's my starter kit." And I said, "Oh, and what about a stove? Do you just put your pot on top of stones or twigs?" And he said, "No, here's my stove. And my stove is 3 6-inch nails, which are shoved into the ground." He uses the rubber, I think it was inside tyre rubber, which he wrapped around, cut into a small strip and wrapped around his cigarette lighter, ready for peeling off, snapping off, setting light to, which would burn nicely. And he'd have himself a brew if he was at an operation that was taking longer than it should. So that's the super lightweight system for cooking. But at the end of the day, as long as you've got a spark and a light, you can make do. But for having luxury on the field, for me it's the BCB, or I think the runner-up is the very lightweight and compact Hexi stove. I used to use gel on the Hexi and meths, but now I was swinging back to the old-fashioned Hexi again, because although there are fumes come off it, it burns hot, effectively and proficiently, and I have to highly recommend the old school system. I don't like the gels because they run. You can get a Hexi gel stove, which is a smaller version of this, but it's messy, although it has a platform. I don't like the gel cubes because they do dissolve into liquid and they can be quite a mess at the end, a sticky goo at the end of the cook. But so until the spring and summer, stay well, keep looking outdoors and going outdoors if you can. It's goodbye from me and goodbye from my favourite stoves. Chin chin.